Okay, hello again. Hope what I provided to now has been helpful in some manner. It's a different perspective. All non-dual teachers are pointing to the same thing, but some perspectives from some teachers seem to be more helpful. So here's another one. Continuing on, just a little about my background, which you can see. I think I put it into my introduction video. Um, a little over 11 years ago, I had the realization of what I'm not. What I'm not being the autobiographical character. Um, Paul Hederman calls it the action figure. And after you have the realization of what you're not, he calls it the action figure traveling lighter, which is about the most accurate description I've heard of it. Um, Everything remains intact. It's just a change in perspective, mainly. Um, I would call it a very positive experience, for lack of a better word. Um, and even though you already are what you seek, you still have the belief that you're not, and so seeking continues. The irony is when you see what you're not, the seeking stops. Or the inverse of that is, if you go the Tony Parsons way, when you run out of things that prove you are you and you're up against the wall, then you give up on seeking because it's just futile. Most of the time, that's when it happens. The realization happens that seeking was pointless because what was sought is already here. But that doesn't mean anything until it does. So let's just continue on. Eckhart Tolle, Chapter 8, Enlightened Relationships. Um, I can have a lot to say about this because I don't know that he has much to say about relationships that you couldn't get in any self-help repair my relationship book at your local bookstore. But starting off, someone's asking a question or making a comment. I always thought that true enlightenment is not possible except through love in a relationship between a man and a woman. Isn't this what makes us whole again? How can one's life be fulfilled until that happens? Eckhart says, in other words, you are waiting for an event in time to save you. Is this not the same core error that we've been talking about throughout the book? Salvation is not elsewhere in place or time. It is here and now. He's right. If seeking is looking at the future, there's nothing there. It's here. You can't find something in the future that's here. So if what you're seeking is here right now, then but you don't realize it, then what you're seeking in the future is just some unrealistic expectation. Something you've read somewhere, dead guru or current spiritual teacher that's, you know, wants that $49.95 per month for him to solve the mystery. It's no mystery. It's here now. And besides, going back to a regular self-help type of advice, you if you think you're going to find happiness in another person, you're going to have a certain amount of suffering inherent in that relationship. The old adage that you have to find happiness yourself first is true. You know, find yourself. Then that person will be an addition to your life, not a necessity. Moving on. Continuing, he says, this is the search for salvation from a state of unsatisfactoriness or insufficiency. Invariably, any satisfaction that they obtain is short-lived, so the condition of satisfaction or fulfillment is usually projected once again onto an imaginary point away from the here and now. Quote, when I obtain this or am free of that, then I will be okay, unquote. This is the unconscious mindset that creates the illusion of salvation in the future. And it's just re-emphasizing what I just said. Continuing, you see time as the means to salvation, whereas in truth it is the greatest obstacle to salvation. That, you need to think about that. I'm going to read that again. You see time as the means to salvation. You know, it's out there in the future. Whereas in truth, it is the greatest obstacle to salvation. It's because as long as there's a belief that it's out there in the future, then it's difficult to see that it's right here, right now. You're chasing something that's here. How can you catch the thing you're chasing if it's already here? It can't be out there and here at the same time. You think that you can't get there from where and who you are at this moment because you are not yet complete or good enough. But the truth is that here and now is the only point from where you can get there. You get there by realizing that you are there already. This this hides in simplicity. And I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. The human mind, I guess, likes complexity. It's built to resolve complexity. It's almost what I'd call an inherent defect in the machine. Simplicity just simplicity is children. Children are simplicity. We build complexity into people. You think you can't get it because you're not complete. That's another false belief. You are you you are complete. The only place to get this is from right now because it is here right now. Just stop for a moment. Just do an exercise. Simplest exercise in the world, and yet people have difficulty with it. Right now, just stop. Stop seeking. Drop all ambition. Drop all care for the future. You know, you might have an unpaid bill that's worrying you. Dropping the worry about that for 30 or 40 seconds isn't going to change anything. It'll still be there. It won't be any more imminent. Give yourself a rest, a minute. There's nothing to do. The past is gone. Future is not here. There's this. This. For you, it's whatever you put your hands out, look around, that's this. Just be. Just exist. Don't add anything to it. There's nothing else needs to be added to pure existence. Nothing needs to be taken away. Whatever problems of the day are, they can wait. Right now, just exist. Right now, just in this moment, because this is all there is. This moment. Just exist. There's nothing to be done, nowhere to go, no one to see. Just exist. Simple. Pure existence is the simplest thing there is. You don't have to do anything. You're already doing it. That which understands what I am saying is pure existence. This talking head that you think you are doesn't know anything. It doesn't know of existence or non-existence. It's just an announcer. That which understands what I'm saying right now understands pure existence. Just be. You're a human being. A being bees. To be or not to be. So we're going to be. Just exist. Right now. Just exist. Nothing necessary. Pure existence. Try it a few times during the day. Just stop and exist. If you like, just look around. The miracle of life. Okay. I think we've done enough on relationships. That's all kind of outside the realm of what I'm trying to point to. Chapter 9. Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. And by the way, when I say that's all I'm going to cover, you should read the whole book, cover to cover, get the whole perspective. Because even though I try to dwell on the personal aspect of it, of what he points to, in this book, he also points sometimes to the aspect of the relationship with other, the relationship with the world. You need to read everything to get the whole perspective because the relationship of the self is partially or fully interrelated with the relationship with others in the world. You know, the what you think you are or what you are actually is the internalization of experiences, of personal experiences, the world teaching you about experience, other people's experiences, and integrating that into you. That's sociology. And then physiology is the bodily reaction to all of this. Okay. Is there a difference between happiness and inner peace? Yes. Happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive. Inner peace does not. That should be self-evident, but I'll elaborate. Happiness is um, new car, new girlfriend, new job, new this, new that, generally speaking, or even with things that you already have, new aspects to them, to your children. Child comes home and has learned to play a little tune on the piano. New experience, new, mostly, especially in Western society. But newness wears off, as we all know, and then you get back to the baseline. If your baseline is fundamental unsatisfactoriness with life, that's where you are most of the time. And seeking new experiences is just a diversion. Very energy consuming. What Eckhart's pointing to here is the baseline should be inner peace, because that's when new is an addition, not a necessity. Inner peace, when you see what you're not, which is this talking head figure, and you see that's an object. That's a false identification. And you see what you are, which is just aliveness, existence. Some people call it knowing awareness. The neurological functions are working. There's recognition of the objects in the environment. That's it. There's no overlay of stories. Well, that should be that. That should be that. That should not be that. This should be different. All those stories get wiped away, and there's just simple existence. Because the storyteller, the judgment maker, that's the false character. That's the unhappy one, the bringer of grief. The child that merely perceives and knows what they are perceiving, that's the one with peace. I mean, without all the stories, there's peace. So seeing through the storyteller, blah, 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 or the two storytellers sometimes. Well, it should do it like that. No, it should happen like that. No, it should happen like this. No, it should happen like that. One voice, two voices. Those go off to the side. There's just this. Okay. Seen from a higher perspective, conditions are always positive. To be more precise, they are neither positive nor negative. I was just fixing to correct that. They are as they are. And when you live in complete acceptance of what is, which is the only way to live, there is no good or bad in your life anymore. There's only a higher good, which includes the bad. To be more precise, things are neither positive nor negative. What he's pointing to is what I just said. Without the stories, this should be that way. That should be this way. Without all those stories that the storyteller character tells, there can be no positive or negative, no good or bad. That's stories. This aliveness, existence, being is what's happening. What's happening can have the overlay of stories, but the stories are only what's happening in the moment. Without the stories, there's just being, existence. And that's what he calls the higher good because it's very energy saving. Stories require a lot of energy. The talking head uses up a lot of energy, expressing opinions, casting judgments. Remember that we are talking about happiness here. For example, when a loved one has just died, or you feel your own death approaching, you cannot be happy. It is impossible, but you can be at peace. That's very true. I know that from personal experience. I'm up at that age when I'm losing people. I've lost people in my family in the last few years. Ugh. But I'm at peace with it. There was grief. Normal emotions come and go, but there's a peace underlying it all. It's I call it just the okayness of life. Underneath everything, there's an okayness, even in bad circumstances. Most of the so-called bad things that happen in people's lives are due to unconsciousness. They are self-created, or rather ego-created. Eckhart likes to use the phrase ego as if it's a thing. It's a good placeholder for, let's say, personality characteristics. But mainly it's what he's talking about. The ego is this false character that says this is bad, this is good. Most of the so-called bad things, because bad is a judgment by the talking head, the object, character. This existence, without the overlay of stories, existence is neither bad nor good. It's, to put it in more of a physical term, it's emotionally neutral. And people will say, well, emotional neutrality, that's bad. No, when your life has been full of a roller coaster of up and down emotions, emotional turbulence, emotional neutrality is rest. And it's not that emotions won't still come and go, but when your baseline is at peace, they come and they go a lot more quickly. They don't stick around. You don't get into these circular stories. Oh, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Next time when I see this person, next time I'm going to say this. And, you're lost. Where are you? Where, where, where are you when when the talking head is dialoguing? Where are you, which understands what I'm saying? The peaceful one, the being. Come back. Come back to existence. Ego is the unobserved mind that runs your life when you are not present as the witnessing consciousness, the watcher. That's what I just said. This existence, pure existence, is just the watcher, not the judger. That's the talking head, the energy vampire. The watcher is simple existence. They're seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and touching. And the knowing of the objects, seeing and recognition of what is seen. Okay. I'm in my office. I'm in my warehouse. That's it. It's not good, not bad. Simply is. I smell. It's a little leftover smell of some supper last night. Little fish smell. Taste, kind of neutral. Hearing, hearing myself talk. Feeling, I feel a chair. None of these things are good or bad. Now, if I say sitting in my warehouse, just neutral, then I say, but it really needs cleaning. The future condition of clean warehouse should be here now. That's the talking head. That's the judger. Things should be different. Not to say that it couldn't use a good cleaning. It's beside the point. Point is, right now, it just is what it is. It's a little messy. And right now, it's a little messy. And right now, it's a little messy. And there's a story that there might come a right now when it's clean. But there's another story that there might not come a right now when it's clean. Then the story might be, well, the warehouse is a little messier. And that'll be what's happening. When egos come together, whether in personal relationships or in organizations or institutions, bad things happen sooner or later. Drama of one kind or another in the form of conflict, problems, power struggles, emotional or physical violence, and so on. This includes collective evils such as war, genocide, and exploitation, all due to masked unconsciousness. Okay, he's getting into the group dynamics now of when more than one unhappy person get together, there's just twice as much unhappiness, or it might have a synergistic effect where it's not just the sum of two unhappinesses is creates a third level of unhappiness independent of the other two. I'm not going to get into all of that. That's the group dynamics. You should read this though because it's pertinent. All right, this is good. Most people are in love with their particular life drama. Their story is their identity. The ego runs their life. They have their whole sense of self invested in it. Even their usually unsuccessful search for an answer, a solution, or for healing becomes a part of it. The search is a part of the unhappy life. What they fear and resist most is the end of their drama. As long as they are their mind, what they fear and resist most is their own awakening. That is probably the number one reason that I have seen people walk away from inquiry. I'm going to make a generalization that it's the older you are, your life, you're more invested in your life story. Um, and when the little realizations start to come that see that you're not that, people think it's their death. What if I'm not that story? That's my death. The end of this character is the end of me. But the end of the character is just the end of the character. Me, that which exists right now in this moment, without all those stories of me, existence will still be here. There is no separate self, never has been. And yet here you are. This body-mind complex has survived however many years. I'm 69 years old. There is no separate self. And yet, here it is. It survived. The character is an illusion. It was never there. It was never necessary. The disappearance of it is actually insignificant on one level because the disappearance of it was the realization that it was never there. Let me say that again. The disappearance of the belief in the character, or the disappearance of the imaginary character, whichever way you want to say it, was seeing that it was never there. Is anything other than a story. So don't be afraid to let go of the story of me. Oh, I did this. I did. Those are all experiences. If I ask you who you are, you're going to say, well, I went to school at such and I was good at math. I wasn't so good at geography. Oh, and I was a good swimmer, and I used to go to summer camp, and then I went to school, and I graduated, and I went to college for a little while, but didn't like it, and went to work, and moved around from some different jobs, and then I got my current job, and I do this, and I'm a research assistant and such, and I go to work every day, and I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and other relationships up and down. No. I asked you who you were. I didn't ask for your resume. You just gave me a list of experiences. You told me what has happened. It's not the same thing as who are you? That was the story. That's not that's not what you are. That's the who that doesn't exist, which is a series of stories of a series of experiences. Pick up an obituary in a newspaper. They're not telling you who that person is. They're telling you what they did. Oh, he was a good father. Okay, so there was the experience of treating his children well. He was a member of the whatever club. He went to whatever church. He worked at whatever place. He enjoyed hunting and fishing and crocheting and quilt making and reading books. It's a series of experiences. You never see who he is. You don't, you don't um, ever see who he really is. You just see a series of experiences. That's who you think you are, but you're not. You're not your resume. What you are is this that understands what is being said. Existence. Pure, simple existence. Okay, had to stop for an audio check there. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're all right on time. Chapter 10, The Meaning of Surrender. Not going to talk about this a lot because the term surrender is meaningless to me, but it should mean something to you. If you're still under, if you still have the illusion of control, which you probably do if you're here. To some people, surrender may have negative connotations, implying defeat, giving up, failing to rise to the challenges of life, becoming lethargic, and so on. True surrender, however, is something entirely different. Does not mean to passively put up with whatever situation you find yourself in and to do nothing about it, nor does it mean to cease making plans or initiating positive action. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. The only place you can experience the flow of life is the now. So to surrender is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without reservation. Now, surrender is a good entry level concept in that it's peaceful to a certain extent. I question whether or not you can actually surrender when you're seeking. Seeking goes until it doesn't. Surrender is actually just an announcement of a physiological event. You're frustrated, seeking. Sometimes it builds up. Your nervous system is out of whack. Your nervous system is under a strain like a wound up rubber band. And sometimes, in order for the body to correct itself, it just snaps back to the default just to get some relief. And there's an announcement. Oh, I give up. The announcement I give up is actually after the fact. It can be just because the frustration has overtaxed your nervous system, or it could be when you finally get it, you've surrendered. Either way, it's your nervous system popping back so it doesn't overload. The problem with surrender as a concept is that it implies volition. It implies agency, that there is a separate self that can make a decision. There is no separate self. So there is no one to make a decision. Ultimately, there are no choices to be made. There's just what happens. Most choices are just an announcement that one course of action is better for survival than another. That which understands what I'm saying takes in information and compares that against the known data bank of survival techniques, and a choice, if you will, or what I would call an inevitability, happens for the survival, because survival is the goal of the game. Well, that's my interpretation of it. The longer you play the game, the more points you rack up for whatever reward there is, if there is such a thing as a reward. Excuse me. I have this fan blowing on me. It dries my throat out. Um, but what he's pointing to is basically there's just this. Whatever this is happening. You're not giving it permission to happen. Cat just wandered over. That's what's happening. Life is happening. Do I want to say, no, this shouldn't be happening? Okay, no, this shouldn't be happening. It's happening. Let's make a judgment about it. Oh, this is all great. Still is what it is. Oh, this is all bad. Still is what it is. Every attempt to escape this is suffering. And no, I'm not pointing to inevitability and, like he said, surrender in the sense of not doing what you're supposed to do. You know, if something comes up that I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do it. There's surrender in this moment because life doesn't demand anything. If the phone rings and somebody says, blah, 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 there's a problem, so that will be tended to. But that's not happening. What's happening right now is just this. Take a lesson from the cat. So let's just practice the exercise, the non-exercise of being. Right now, there's just this. Whatever life is demanding, you can wait a minute. Just exist. Right now, in this moment, just exist. Just be. Just be. Thoughts can come and go. They always will. Just be. Let them come and go. If you get lost, come back to being. Just exist. This is what you are. Existence. Being. Human being. Being the operative word. Just be. How does that feel? Okay. Practice that. It may feel funny. That's because you're not used to just be. You're not used to just existing. So all these stories about it, but the stories about it aren't it. The stories are just like clouds floating through the sky. You're the background, existence. Stories come and go like clouds. They don't obscure anything because you're not on the ground. You're the sky, the background. Okay, well, that's the power of now. Now, I also recently bought Stillness Speaks, and I haven't read it yet, or if I have read it, it was many years ago and I don't remember it. But I'm going to look through it and maybe start giving some commentary on it. It will be repetitive because there's only so many ways that one person can actually point to this before you start repeating yourself, and Eckhart's no different. Maybe my commentary will add some color to it. We'll see. Meanwhile, if you have questions, just want to talk about it, there will be a You Can Book Me page below this video and all others. It's free. It's a 2-hour session, although we can run long, we can run short, doesn't matter. Um, so, but it's an open conversation. There's nothing not allowed. If you want to know about my story, boring as it is, that's fine. If you just want to concentrate on doing a direct experience inquiry, looking at thoughts and the nature of thoughts, which is really what you should be doing, that's where you'll make the most progress. I'll bring my whiteboard up here. We can take some particularly troubling thoughts, put them up on the whiteboard, and look at them. Look at the talking head. Look at the talking head. See how unreal it is. That's where the juice is. So until then, um, good luck on your journey, which will ultimately bring you right back to where you are. And see you soon.